Alrighty, folks, today is the day. Signed, sealed, delivered. It is a privilege to welcome on a very special guest. He is a Super Bowl champion, NFL Pro Bowler, the highest Division III draft pick in NFL history, and it's not even close. And he kicked an unbelievable amount of ass for 7 seasons with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Ali Marpet.
Good to have him on. There we go.
Wow. What an introduction. Honestly, I don't know if I've had an introduction like that. That one,
perfect. Perfect. We're already batting 1,000 then.
That's right. Can only go down from here.
Well, here's your next test, okay? So yeah, Super Bowl champion, yes, Pro Bowler, yes, team captain, yes. But
Sure.
not for nothing, it was my birthday yesterday. So if you wanted to, say anything about that, or if you wanted to,
Yeah, I'm big happy birthday. I'm sure you're celebrating, right?
Just trying to get the happy birthday on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm assuming my gift is still in the mail, so that's fine. It's all good. So
30, right? No?
yes, big 30, yeah.
Wow.
Imagine
Yeah.
that. So before we get going, I just want to say, it's not every day that guys like us get to interview a Super Bowl champion. So we appreciate you popping on with us, giving us your time. But also disclaimer, I hope you don't mind that while we do have you, we're probably going to grill you a little bit. All right. So there's going to be a little, we talked about beforehand, so might be something a little spicy, but it won't be too bad. So
I welcome all questions. And again, I have no problem passing on whatever. So bring it on.
Yeah,
I'm really starting to think I should have just left those questions full that we're talking about, but we'll leave them for now. But
yeah,
okay.
So yeah, I think where I want to start is so now that you've hung up the pads, I'm kind of curious about how you're kind of reflecting on the different stages of your career in the NFL, and I want to start at the beginning. When you first entered the league, because most NFL players coming in, they're going to be blue chip guys from like big time football schools, and I was wondering how you were able to acclimate to like the locker room situation and the environment there. When 8 months before that, you were in Geneva, New York, working out at Hobart College, whereas some of these guys are coming from LSU, Clemson, all these different places. So, what was it like for you your first few weeks in the locker room, like acclimating to that type of environment with those type of guys?
Yeah, I think for me, I was kind of fortunate that it was trial by fire.
Mhm.
I was actually had a unique path because so obviously the small school stuff, but I was expected to play right away.
Right,
So
because
like
of how
as a
drafted.
second round pick, yeah, you're expected to play.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like not like a lot of small school guys have a similar, underdog story, which I had, but I also had this like support or belief that I was like, well, you got to get it done.
Right.
So I kind of had a trial by fire in like early on, and I think that was the best thing for me. Like is like I just had to figure it out. Like I didn't really have an option. So fortunately at the time I had some older guys that were super beneficial for me.
Mhm.
Like I think that's how young guys can develop. If you have smart older guys that care and want younger guys to develop in a culture of a locker room that wants young guys to be their best selves, and that's what I had going into it.
Yeah, because like for example, if I recall correctly, you played with like Logan Mankins, right? Wasn't he on the Bucks early on when you were there, or am I misremembering?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so Logan Mankins, he was a perennial Pro Bowler, if you guys know, I think. Yeah, but he was so huge for me as a rookie, giving me the lay of the land and what to expect,
right,
and just modeling what professionalism is. So having that is huge.
And did
if I remember correctly,
sorry,
go ahead. Sorry. I was going to say, if I remember correctly, Logan Mankins, he was another guy that a lot of people are saying, he got reached for in the draft, like should have been later, this and that. So I don't know if he might have had almost the same mentality in the sense of like, you got something to prove and you don't have a choice. Like you got to prove it right now.
Yeah.
Like as soon as you get there,
He was I think the 31st pick or something like that.
Yeah.
First, yeah. And so, yeah, probably the same thing. And dude, his mentality, his approach to the game was just, I guess, inspirational. I mean, it was just such the blue collar, just grind it out, do it the hard way, which was what I needed.
And he's a guy that was coming at that point. He must have had at least 3 rings, right, before he even got to Tampa.
So
at least 2 or 3.
We'll talk about an interesting career because he got there.
Was he one of the Giants guys? Like when they.
So he got drafted there the year after they won, and they traded him, and then they won it. So he was there for 10 years, I think, and lost to the Giants twice, and never won one.
That's such a shame.
And if I'm remembering correctly, you grew up a Giants fan, right?
Yeah, so I watched those. Yeah, so
So
yes,
do you
I
chirp
watched
him a little
those.
bit about
Yeah.
that, or
No, dude, what the difference is like when you're in there and it's your livelihood versus like,
yeah, you like don't give, yeah, you don't do that.
yeah,
I
Yeah.
guess.
I didn't have much stake as a Giants.
I gotcha.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, if that's a guy that's in your locker room, what about outside of locker room? Like your first few games in the league, did guys realize like where you were from? Like, were guys talking shit to you? Like, hey, D3, like, did you hear anything like that? Or was it just like, hey, I'm here, I'm whooping your ass, like, don't worry about it? Like, that's what.
There's honestly I would say there's the shit talking that happens in the NFL is so, I don't know, underwhelming. Like,
Really?
you think-
Really?
yeah, I mean,
Wow.
I think you hear some of the mic'd up stuff, and
Yeah.
maybe that's the best of it. But I really think that guys, I mean, you know when you're mic'd up, so guys will, I
A
think,
little more
over
tame.
embellish.
Mm,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so yeah, it's really like you
pretty
know,
tame.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
that, and then it's also not creative. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
you saw, I'm not going to curse too much, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just hurt. Like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sounds like high school football then.
It's,
You don't really
I
know what
mean,
you're saying, but you're just pumped and yelling. Like,
yeah, dude, because your adrenaline, you're running so
Right.
hot. It's like you're not going to
Yeah.
be very smart about it.
right.
Yeah.
We've talked about on the show. We've had one player in particular, but the things he said doesn't make any sense. But for some reason, you're like, hell yeah, let's go. Like you were just all hyped up, anyways.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We'll lead right into that. So, the way I put this was like, what was your like holy shit moment? I'm in the NFL right now. Like you're in it through your whole NFL experience, and this could be all the way from like the draft process, getting drafted, like seeing your name pop up. I'm sure you guys saw it on TV, this and that. Watching that. Maybe it was running out of the tunnel. Even just for a preseason game the first time. Maybe it was the first time you really hit a regular season game. Like, what was that first moment? You're like, this is real. This is happening.
Gosh, I don't know if it's that exciting, but my first real like this is happening was actually at the Senior Bowl. So
Okay.
during the All-Star game, and it was during one-on-ones during the Senior Bowl. Like O-line, D-line, it's like that's more important than the game, more important than practice. Like that's it, right?
Yeah.
And so all the pressure's on, and I'm at left tackle. Which didn't make any sense because Trent Brown, was at left guard. And dude's like 6'8", and I'm like, why am I at tackle? Anyway, so I'm at left tackle, and at the time it was Nate Orchard, who was like the NCAA sack leader.
Utah, right?
Like Utah, nice.
Yeah.
And at the time he was kind of a guy. He was, and first rep one-on-ones, like I didn't have to do much. Like it wasn't a great rep, but I just kind of rolled him, like walked him right, like pushed his hip right past the quarterback, and I was like, "Wow, that just happened."
Yeah.
Like, I expected. I don't know what I expected to happen,
Yeah.
but I kind of expected to be like on the ground somehow. And
I wish you had been like,
that
hey,
was
you should have been like, man, you guys kind of suck. But not.
Yeah.
I definitely wasn't like that because like
No,
there were
yeah.
some dudes that were some
Yeah,
dudes
no,
that were,
for sure.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
And then
That's a
do you
name I
have a
haven't heard
follow
in
up
a
on that
while.
one, or
What's up?
No, that was all. That was my big
Okay.
thing right there. I was just wondering like what the moment was. There was like, oh man,
Right.
this is happening type deal.
Right.
Because some I've watched plenty of documentaries that are NFL, just the NFL network and stuff. You see people like I ran out of the tunnel the first game, and this was it. Or everyone has their different thing. Like you see some people like the first time I got absolutely destroyed in practice. I was like, okay, we're in the NFL. I mean, everyone's got their thing. So I was just curious what yours was. Yeah.
I mean, I've had several moments. That one stands out to like, oh, I made it. And then there was another. I mean, there was another like, gosh, my first
direct deposit?
What's up?
First direct deposit. Yeah.
Yeah, that was nice too. No, like our first regular season game, I let up a sack to Jarrell Casey.
I was about to say, I remember that game. That was when you guys played Mariota and the Titans. Yes.
That was a big, exactly. It was a big, like, hyped up game.
Yep.
The number 1, number 2 pick, quarterbacks going at it. But so I think it was like a nationally televised game. So, and eventually let up a sack. And I was like, and I'm like, obviously pretty upset, but I'm like, if this is the worst that it's gonna get for me, like I'll be able to figure it out.
Well, in all fairness, I mean, what was it, like 3 years you hadn't let up a sack at Hobart or something like that? So it probably not something you're used to, I imagine. So
That was another piece. It was like, all right, how do you handle getting beat? And I definitely got beat.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
Jarrell Casey also is in your. I was gonna
so.
say he's not exactly your like. I mean, you have like all your NFL players. Obviously, you're all the top of the top. But then there's like a little bit more. Like Jarrell Casey's right here. Like he's an absolute animal. So that's
There's no
you're gonna
shame
let
in
up a
giving
sack
one
to
up.
some. So you let up a sack to someone. That's a pretty fair one.
Yeah.
Yeah. At one point, he really was that guy before like Aaron Donald was like interior rushers. He was kind of that guy.
So next is, I mean, it's kind of a similar question, but like, I feel like, 99% of NFL fans that, grow up loving the game, like that's all they're ever going to be is like fans of the NFL. And you're the rare case where you grew up being a fan of the NFL and then you got to experience it from the other side as a player and from the business side of it. And then, so do you recall anything specifically as a player, whether, it can be positive or negative or both, where you thought to yourself, like, damn, like I never would have thought of this as like a fan. Like I never anticipated this happening. I never would have realized like this is how it is or something like that. Is there anything specific you can think of that surprised you that you don't think fans would ever realize like goes on, or is there anything like that?
Yeah,
or?
I mean, I think nothing really pops to mind. Only the thing that I can say is that like, um, I don't want to undermine fans and their enthusiasm for the game because fans make the whole thing go. Like that's just the reality of it. That being said, like what I was saying earlier about the livelihood piece of it,
Right.
like it's like when you're in it and like there's no way to understand that perspective of like jobs and families are like on the line. There's no way to really understand that perspective, I think, as a fan.
Right.
So I think only when you're in the locker room and you see like, on cut down day or, when someone's knee goes out, it's more than just like, my fantasy season's ruined or like, I really like that guy. The impact, I think that there's no way to really understand it. I think maybe as a guy, as a fan there is, but like, that I think with that perspective shift,
and especially I got to imagine like your whole life you've been playing for fun, and now it's like, you still want to have fun out there, but it's like shit, like I gotta get my shit done, or else I'm like, I'm out of here, So like there's that whole nother level to it where you want to have fun, but it's like this is a job, So
when the stakes become that high, like that much money's on the line, that much stress, that much pressure, the relationship to the game does change. To your point. So like it was not the same playing professionally as it was at Hobart, totally different experience.
And then hand in hand with that, I got to imagine when guys get those type of deals, when they get new contracts and stuff, that must be a whole new world of pressure where it's like they gave me all this money and like I got to, hold up my end, that sort of thing too. Like that's got to be a whole nother league of pressure. Like sure, you play out your rookie deal, but once they give you a new deal, it's like now they're really talking big money, So
right. And the last thing you want to be is that guy who's, overpaid or whatever. I mean, you really, you want to, yes, to your point, there's like so many levels of it that just compound that make it more than just like, my team lost. And the thing is, I don't want to even undermine fans because like it is true. I have seen it where people like fans are like so invested, but I do think that, I don't know if everyone will really comprehend what that feels like on, cut day or what that's like.
And so is that a thing where like if a guy is kind of underperforming and he does make a lot of money, do you guys talk about that, or do guys even like care? Or is it just kind of like that's that guy's business? I'm not going to get in his business. Like he'll come back around, sort of thing. Like,
well, I think
talk about that. Or
I mean, yes, I think the truth is like you want to be successful, and that if a guy is being paid to perform and they're not. And if you're, I don't know, wherever your place in the locker room is to have that conversation, like I got to say, like if there was a DB who wasn't performing, that wasn't going to be me. I think we're just like too far removed. But if there was someone on the offensive line where it's like, all right, dude, we got to figure this out, or if it's someone else, I think that was a more realistic conversation. And I think the more senior you are, like a Tom, like can have that conversation with anybody.
And do you think, is there any like one common thread that you can place your finger on as far as like what makes guys like, because there's so many guys that they'll have like 1 or 2 years where they're producing at a level that's like elite, and then all of a sudden it's like, you know, they end up getting a cut 2 years later. Is there any like one thing you can put your finger on as far as like why that happens to guys, or is it any number of different things depending on who it is?
Yeah.
You know, like
I think that's a really great question. I think that there could be there obviously, so the answer is there could be so many different things.
Yeah.
Like physically, it could just be like, all right, my ankle's messed up.
Yeah.
It could be the type of thing where it's like, all right, I've already been paid and now I feel comfortable with that. Now that's the way that I handle it. There are some people that can't do that. It could be, I mean, a host of different things. So no, like the answer is there is no one thing. I think that's very fascinating because usually it is at the a social or psychological component that definitely plays into it. That I'm totally fascinated by.
Yeah, I've always wondered about that sort of thing. But
this episode of the Beer Money Podcast brought to you by Kyle McGeechan of Two Rivers Realty. As you're looking at on the screen right here, that's Kyle. No, that's not from a mugshot. That's for his LinkedIn. So if you're looking to buy a home, hit up Kyle McGeechan. Oh, look at that. There's his number, his cell phone number, his email. He's also an amateur practicing physician. So if you want to send him something, say, hey, Kyle, is this infected? Go ahead and do that. Otherwise, hit him up for any real estate needs. Hit him up.
You mentioned like the like where you're like an offensive lineman. If something happens to the DB, like that's not, you know, you guys are a little too far removed, not your place type deal. Like how close are you? Like, I mean, I know as a team you're obviously close to a point, but is there like kind of like an obvious separation between like offense, defense, as far as in like just what you guys do every day type deal, or like because it always seems like you see them like removed, like you got your offensive bench, you got your defensive bench, like people are here. You know what I mean? Like is that kind of like removed in all aspects, or is it really just as far just like practice stuff?
Yeah. So I think with the best teams, there's it's more integrated, right? Like I think in the best teams, like everybody has good relationship. But what I don't think people truly understand is the disconnect. And like there's so much specialization, right? So like I'm with the offensive line, or as an offensive lineman, like we have an offensive meeting for maybe 30 minutes, I don't know, an hour, 30 minutes, but most of the time it's just offensive line. Maybe, you know, tight ends and running back come in for a run game meeting, quarterbacks for a protection meeting, but really like it really is that. So offensive line, even from the offense, is like they're not separate, but that's where you spend the time. So really there is this compartmentalization that happens within position groups. So yeah, it is pretty far moved. Obviously you're cool, you're cordial, but it's not, you very rarely is it like that's your guy.
And is any part of that like you don't want to get like too attached to someone just in case they do, you know, get cut or whatever? Like is there some sort of like
it's just like a time thing. Like it's like I was saying, you're not like in the meeting. Like you have you have a team meeting, and then you have which is like just a briefing, and then you know you have practice. But like practice, you're separated. It really is like pretty far removed.
Well, that kind of rolls into Bean's next question. I think Bean had a question that kind of deals with that, but.
Yeah, so we kind of wanted to pick your brain on like the lifestyle of an NFL player and what your day-to-day kind of looks like during the grind of the NFL season. So essentially, like, what did your work day look like when you drive to the facility in the morning all the way till you get home at night? Like, what are you doing, you know, hour by hour almost? Yeah,
so Wednesday would be like our prototypical day. That's like our Monday work week meeting. So usually, gosh, I mean, it starts with treatment. So I'm probably there by 6:15, 6:30, and then breakfast, like first thing breakfast, and then treatment. So treatment is usually just like body maintenance stuff.
Yeah.
So whatever, you know, injuries you have that are nagging, because that's an inevitability.
Right.
That's for like 30, 45 minutes. And you're usually meeting at, would that be like 7:30 or something like that, 8. And then, like I said, that's just like a little briefing, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And then you break up into an offensive defensive group, and wherever that can meet for an hour or two. And then for us, we would actually practice kind of in the morning. So we'd meet for an hour or two. And that meeting is like, it's you're installing on Wednesday, or you're watching film on Thursday and Friday. But then then you're out to practice. Practice is no more than 2 hours and 15 minutes realistically, maybe 2 hours. you're back inside, and for us that included a walkthrough actually. Back inside for lunch, and then you're meeting and watching practice and game film until 4 or 5 o'clock.
Okay,
but
cool.
it's so much. It's hours of a day of film, and I don't think that's such a unique thing to football. Like basketball, I don't think you're watching.
Yeah, I was always kind of wondering, like, because I mean, I remember, I know, D3 Hobart's a far cry from the NFL, but like I always felt like, when we were in training camp, it was almost like it was a job. Like you got up, you were running, you were lifting all day long, film, practice, all that stuff. So I was wondering if that ever like wore you down. Like, did it feel like camp? Like when you were just going at it all day long doing things, or did you kind of just fall into a routine where it wasn't super strenuous, so it didn't affect you that way? But
yeah, I think you have to find things that like make it less of a grind, if that makes sense. So like for me, the one way that I could make practice not a grind as much, and it's always going to be, it's like, all right, find one thing to get better at today. So it's like, all right, I'll work on throwing my left, whatever, work on throwing your left hand. It could be a million different things, but like on the dog days of where it's like an absolute grind, that like in the back of my mind of like, all right, find something to get better at was so huge to like rest my hat on. Like that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
And then the meetings, like you have to be locked in.
Yeah.
And I was actually able to stay relatively locked in without dip or coffee or anything like that.
Right.
I did all right actually.
Right.
Yeah, just a little follow up on that. Conversely, what does like a typical off day for you look like, and also like a bye week? I know how did you typically spend your bye week, and how do you think some of the other players on your team spent their bye weeks from what you heard?
Yeah. So Tuesday or off day Tuesday, Tuesday and a normal Sunday game week. So Tuesday's completely off. That being said, I usually went in for not a lift or anything like that, but more treatment. So like usually you go, except for I think my last year, you go in for the tub, going for the cold tub, hot tub, do things to make your body feel good, get a massage, whatever. So that's your Tuesday. The bye week, I think you're required to get it might be 5 days, 4 days off totally.
Yep.
And so it's not enough time where like I never wanted to like do like a trip, but like, I'm in Florida, you do like a staycation on the beach or something like that. But like whatever it was, like you're just sleeping as much as you can, and you're just trying to like, I at least was trying to recover as much as you can. I think guys did it differently, and maybe I can't speak for everyone, but that was always my intention. But the bye week was such a huge reprieve, so necessary. Like, talk about the grind, the psychological grind of it. Like that's necessary.
And I just had one more quick question about a bye week. You as a player, would you prefer it to kind of be one of those early season bye weeks or middle of the season, or would you rather have like one of the late bye weeks? Which one did you feel would be like more beneficial to you?
I think I preferred definitely not the early, but those late buys were actually like so nice. And actually, as much as I hated Thursday night football, you're required to have, I think, 3 days off after it. So it's kind of referred to as like a mini bye.
Basically, bye.
So that, like breaking that up too was always kind of nice too. So it's like if you have those were for the bye week and Thursday night were far enough apart, like you got 2 little buys, and that was nice.
You look forward to those.
Well, actually, it's funny. It's funny. I was saying it's funny you brought that up because my next question was going to be about Thursday night games, and I remember texting. I was talking to you one time about it, and you were saying that you're like, I don't really like Thursday night games at all, and I was like, it made sense to me once I heard it from your perspective, because as fans, we're just excited that, we get an extra game in between Sundays, and you don't really think about it, the physical toll that it's going to be taking on you guys. But that's one of the things that I do remember you saying is you didn't really love those. And that makes a lot of sense now. But
but also, so I think I think they've looked into it as far as injury rates. I'm not sure if there's substantial evidence that would suggest that Thursday night is that much more dangerous from an injury standpoint. But psychologically, you're just starting to get fresh on Thursday from a Sunday game. So
and I gotta imagine on that Friday morning you're just absolutely destroyed, like because you got 2 games in 4 days basically. That's gonna be crazy.
So
we don't need to get too far into those Thursday night games.
It's a good short answer one. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so I had another question for you. We know you as a player have to have certain media obligations, so I just kind of want to get your opinion on the obligations you have talking to the media, and as far as like when we as fans on the outside kind of hear about some drama within the locker room, how often does that tend to be accurate, and is that reporters just kind of making vague statements and hoping they catch a player kind of actually talking about something that's actually happening, or what?
Sure. So I will say media access in the NFL is like, I mean, again, it's a business, so fans need access, but my gosh, like just absurd.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm not offering up a better solution, but like, dude, I'm changing. Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you're 2 feet away from me, my guy. Like, so like, I think
Privacy
so
isn't high, it seems.
yeah, and like so that was like even so that's post game what you see, but like even pre-practice, right? So pre-practice, they're there in the locker room while I'm, doing all my stuff,
Yeah.
and if occasionally they'll just like linger and grab you, and so like just that access is just weird, and I think. But to your question about like locker room drama, it's always overplayed. It's like so, it's annoying. It almost like is annoying to see. But yes, whatever drama is in, like distraction is that trope is just like
I've always
non-existent.
wondered that because like people would be like, oh, well, such and such happened in his personal life, so it's going to affect him in the game. It's like, no, it's not. If you've ever played any sport, it's not specific to football. Like any sport, any athlete, they'll like once you're out on the field, like you're not thinking about like the argument you got in with your girlfriend. Like no one's thinking
Right.
about that shit. Like we're just out here to play, like
dude, like so AB, like
yeah.
that situation.
Let's go.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, so like the truth is, I was on the field. I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I didn't even know
Right.
what happened until after the game. Like, I wish there was a way cooler, better story. But
Yeah.
like when I got off the field at one point, our line coach was like, "Yeah, AB walked out." It's like, okay, like,
Right.
So that
it's
didn't
like,
phase you at all.
and
You're like, yeah, sounds about right.
yeah, okay, like all like
Yeah.
we'll figure it out. Now, when I saw after what he was going, I was like, okay, that's not what I thought would happen.
Yeah.
But
Right.
like talk about like distraction, like
Yeah.
he was
Did you have a ton of? I mean, we don't get to too specific, but like, was he like? Just seem like a decent guy? How much did you really talk to him? Did you really like interact with him that much, like
Yeah.
in the huddle, or how was he? Like,
Yeah, so when he was positive, he was extremely positive, and then towards the end there, we're like, really, my own perspective, I don't know, really know what it was. Maybe he wasn't getting the ball enough, whatever. But at some point, whenever it started to sour, it like really got sour, and like he genuinely didn't want to. I don't think want him to be there in that capacity, and everybody felt that, and he walked off on his terms, I suppose.
yeah,
But yeah, so like when he was around, like really was a positive guy.
I heard he
And
trains his ass off. Like
enthusiastic.
he's a hard worker, right? Like that's what I've heard.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't
that's
say
overblown too,
enough
I don't know.
yeah, I mean, he could be. I couldn't say enough where I saw that, but it's possible.
Mhm.
I would just say his enthusiasm was always good. Like talk about having a grind where it's just have someone kind of bouncing around. Like those, that's nice to have. And then again, he really wasn't getting the ball towards the end there, and we weren't getting that anymore.
Right.
So AB is a big name, but I'm kind of interested. I want to ask you real quick about maybe some guys that more so flew under the radar that you matched up with that maybe might not be household names, but they always give you a tough time. And I remember from my childhood growing up, I always loved Casey Hampton, nose tackle for the Steelers. He's not a guy that's going to show up on the stat sheet at all, not a stat stuffer, but he's a handful. He's going to hold you back from getting to that second level. He's going to do a bunch of little things. So who's a guy that you can think of that maybe isn't a household name, but does all the little things great and always gave you like a tough battle?
So at one point, I mean, this is, I don't know, it's a good question, but I don't know if it's not like a splashy answer, but like the Bucks actually signed him towards the end. Steve McClendon. He was with the Jets at one point, but
and Steelers as well.
Steelers as well.
Yeah, I think he got drafted by the Steelers, but yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. Just roll. like grown man strong.
Mhm.
And I remember trying to drive block, and I was like, this isn't going anywhere. So running back figured it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Do
yeah,
you know,
there
like, do you know
are
pretty quickly, like when you're match up with a guy, do you know pretty quickly it's like, all right, it's not gonna be one of those game where I'm like blowing him off the ball. Like I'm gonna have to work my angles and shit like that. Like
yeah. So like you get a sense in film, like, all right, that guy's stout.
Yeah.
And then like sometimes in a game you'll be like, oh, I can move him. Or like,
Right.
and then sometimes in a game you'll be like, he's not going anywhere.
Mhm.
So like him, I remember like there's a Grover Stewart, Indianapolis. I don't know where he's at right now.
I don't think I
But
remember.
yeah, so he again on tape was like, all right, he's not moving that much. Like I'm sure we on a double team we'll get movement. And then, like, sure enough, you hit it with like a double or whatever, and just nothing. I was like,
Yeah.
this sucks.
All right, and Ali, conversely, who would you actually consider like the most noteworthy opponent that you like really handled well? Who, and who are you proud of battling against and actually winning that battle one-on-one as far as like a D lineman or a DN?
That you're suggesting is overrated, or just that
Or
I
no,
did
someone's
it?
just like someone that's like a really acclaimed player, whether they've been an all pro or just someone who like throughout the league is regarded as, really kind of upper level talent.
Yeah, I'd say I think one of my proudest moments was actually my last game, which is the playoffs against the Rams. So when Rams went to the Super Bowl. So
Yeah.
like obviously Aaron Donald's that guy. Like he
Yeah, right.
just is. It's as advertised. It's not like a sexy answer, but he is that guy. The stuff he can hit you with is just like wild.
I was expecting to hear that, to be honest. I mean, that's yeah.
I mean, you played
he's-
great against him in that game. I mean, now looking back now, I mean, that was your last game, right?
Teams have
So
to
the fact
triple
that
team him. I
you
mean,
got to go out like that against one of the best in the league, I mean, that's
Right. So and we again NFC, like for whatever reason we'd always played them.
Yeah.
Like I played them like 4 or 5 times, and he gets the best of me. But in that game I played the best I had against him, and that felt like really good. I was like, all right, starting to figure it out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's a good one to have.
Yeah.
Ben, you going with that one?
Yeah. What about this Lamar one? That's a good question, Buzz. You want to ask him that one?
Yeah, I'll go with that one now.
Yeah.
So like Lamar, I'm sure you've seen like making headlines as far as his agent situation or like lack thereof at the moment. It led a lot of people to ask a question, including myself, and actually we've talked about on this podcast as well. Like, what exactly does an agent do to command the type of money they get? So it's kind of a two-parter. And then, like, is Lamar taking a big risk, or taking on a big task, I should say, by trying to be both an athlete and a player? Or do you think agents are a little more glorified middlemen than people maybe like understand or notice and stuff? It's not talking bad about them. It's just like the curiosity of like, is this really as massive a risk as everyone's talking about by not, trying to not worry about having an agent do it himself type of deal?
I mean, I think the truth of the matter is it probably depends on the player and depends on the agent. So like,
Yeah,
there are some agents that I think guys, it's helpful to have in your corner, right? Like sometimes you need someone that is giving you sound advice when you wouldn't hear it from anybody else that's going to be in your corner. And maybe he needs that, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But the question I think you ask yourself as a player is, so the most that they can charge is 3%, right? An NFL agent, and so you can negotiate that to be whatever, under 3%.
Right.
So the question you have to ask yourself, or one that I would ask players to ask themselves, is like, do you think that you can do 3%, better without them? Like really, like, is that? So and for these guys that are signing these big deals, it's closer to 1%. So it's like, yeah, it's a lot of money, but really, I think they're generally adding more than 1% of value. But it totally depends. Like on a rookie deal, they don't really. The truth is, they don't really do much. There's not a ton of negotiation. You're signing that contract.
If I'm not mistaken, Roquan just did that, right? With the Ravens, right? Roquan Smith just did that with his deal. I think he negotiated his own deal.
He did.
I believe so. That's what I think I remember reading that. But
and there are some guys that have done it, that have done decent deals, and that can do it the right way. Smart guys. I think that I always had an agent. And I think that he can do X% better than I could on my own, and so it was worth it.
It's more time for sure, commitment on your end if you as a player. That's why I was curious, like, is it that much time commitment to the point of you're like, you should just get the agent? So I guess it does matter too, like you said, bigger deals, more money at stake, things change at that point. But
yeah, and usually I think guys have the leverage to negotiate fees to be something that again, you're not paying 3%. Like he's not. And so if an agent can do, let's say, 1% better, then it's worth having. I like give you 1% more money. It's worth it.
Yeah.
Speaking of kind of like saving, looking at the percentages and trying to save money where you can, I've always been interesting. I mean, especially with the NFL, I want your opinion, but just sports in general. I've always wondered if guys, when they're looking at going somewhere else, how much does it factor in? Like for instance, if you're playing like you did in Florida versus playing in New York or California, where the income tax is so much higher, how much does that factor into guys' decisions when they're looking at a place to go? Like, because I mean, that's got to make a big difference when you're talking about,
Yeah, I think I would compare. You compare app net, right? So you can compare net earnings. So what is that going to be in New York or New Jersey rather versus Florida? But like if your salary, let's say is whatever 10 million, like you're still getting taxed at like wherever you play. Right. So only really half of those games would be for Florida would be not untaxed. Gotcha. Those rest of those games we're getting taxed in those states. So it's not like 11% in Jersey and 0 in Florida or whatever is in Jersey. I don't know, 10%, 8, or whatever it is. Yeah. So it's really closer to like 5.5% difference, which isn't insignificant, or 4%. But so yes, you do compare. You absolutely consider net costs.
Interesting. Yeah, I've always wondered that because I mean I know I would if you're talking about, because once you get into that much money, that's got to make a pretty big difference. But I know like a guy like Le'Veon Bell, I was always, because I'm a Steelers fan, he left for New York for the Jets for not really all that much money, much more money than the Steelers were offering. So I was thinking once you kind of even it out with how much he's paying in taxes in New York, I would think he would make less money than he would with the Steelers, but I don't know. I've just always been fascinated by that.
That seemed like a brand opportunity to kind of
maybe
prove yourself.
Maybe
prove yourself.
He was focused on more than football.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what went into that negotiation. I wish I had more insight, but the truth is, it seemed like he had at the time a legitimate deal from Pittsburgh that would have been way more advantageous for him. But I don't know the details.
But I think we'll do a few more questions. We'll get into your Super Bowl year, because obviously we want to hear about that, and then we can get into some of these segments here. But I mean, first question about the 2020 season. Obviously, a great year for you guys, won the Super Bowl, but I mean, you can start anywhere you want, but how weird was that, having to play under all those, the COVID protocols, the testing every day? Like, how much harder did that make your job, day to day as a player?
Yeah, it's just one of those things that adds to like the grind of it. It's just like, every day going in for that. But I think the hardest part about it was making decisions to like mitigate risk, right? So like, all right, you want to have family in town. It's like, I probably shouldn't do that because like I don't want to miss a game. And so that was, I think, hard. And then I know, like, for families, that was hard, right? So, like, at least me and my fiance were like really there were people we wanted to see that, like, she had to cut, she had to avoid certain people too, just because you don't want to be out in the world as much. But yes, definitely a wild year. And for so many reasons.
Did you ever hear about, obviously, again, no, you don't have to say any names, obviously, but like, did you ever hear about maybe guys were pushing the envelope a little bit, maybe going out at night, and maybe guys were like, hey, why the hell are you doing that, man? We got a season to worry about. Like, did you ever hear anything about like anything like that, or were guys pretty responsible with like their time?
Yeah. So yes. So one thing, like Florida was open, right? Like pretty much.
Right. That's
So like, I think there are some places like there wasn't much to do anyway. Like so there was an opportunity to it. Like Florida, there was plenty of opportunity.
Right.
And so yes, I think that there were guys that probably were not. I know that were not staying within the protocols. The protocols were kind of absurd. So no, there were guys that were not within the protocol, and guys that were like, were serial offenders. You'd be like, dude, like, take it easy. Like, be smart about this. And those conversations happen for sure.
And then, by 2020, that'd be your 4th or 5th season in the league, right? And I mean, so at that point, you're established guy, one of the best in the league at your position. But at the same time, you know, you look at that roster, and I think I texted this to you one time during that season. It was basically like a Madden team. It was basically like you went on Madden, you added all the best guys that you could think of. You got Tom Brady, Gronk, Antonio Brown, Shady McCoy, and Dominican Sue. Like, did you ever find yourself looking around the room and being like, yeah, like I'm at their level now, but at the same time, like I grew up watching all these guys. Like, this is kind of fucking crazy. Like, did you ever have that feeling?
It was wild. I remember us sitting there with who was it? I think it was Kappa, our right guard. And we were like, dude, like we were just sitting in a team meeting room and we were just like, how many Hall of Famers are in here?
Exactly. It's crazy. Crazy team.
I mean, you're talking 4 out of the list you just gave, probably.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So yeah, to your point, Madden team, like I don't know how they did it. I think the Bucks will eat it on the back end, salary cap issues, I'm sure. Like it's inevitable. I gotta think. I'm not following it like that, but but they were able to the fact that team was
just
still
stacked.
within it was just absurd. So the fact that we had stayed healthy was like obvious, like okay, we're them.
You guys
what's up?
No, go ahead.
I was saying very rarely, like in the NFL, is there talent discrepancy. Like it's a pretty even playing field, and that's kind of what I like about the NFL versus other sports leagues. And it was like one year, it's like, wow, we're just like better than and that was a big confidence boost.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's
cool.
I was just saying, did you guys add Lenny that year too, right? Leonard Fournette, wasn't he as part of that?
Yeah, Fournette.
Yeah, okay. I was just trying to think of when you naming all those people. I was like, there's more than that. I mean, there was like 7-8 offseason ads, and I was like, how? Like, how did that happen?
Sherm was there. Sherman was there at one point.
Oh yeah,
it was just wild. Yeah,
it's almost like when you see like it's like, don't they have a salary cap? Like, how is this happening? It's like the Rams. Like it's like
I had restructured mine twice, and both times they were just like, "Thank you." I'm like, dude, I don't care. Like we're signing. I actually restructured for both AB and Richard Sherman.
Oh, so he was your favorite.
I was like,
you got him his ring, man.
I was like, say less. Like, those, of course.
Yeah. And then, I mean, not to obviously that's all your own business, but like, does that, I mean, end of the day, you're still getting the same amount, right? It's just like paid out differently. So,
Okay. In my situation, I wasn't taking less. It was just salary cap magic that Mike Greenberg and Jason know how to, they're our GM and contract negotiator. They know how to do
number gurus.
Number gurus.
So speaking of Jason, is he a guy that you're kind of like tied at the hip with now? Like just because he did take a shot on you, he believed in you and everything. Are you guys still pretty close to this day, or?
I mean, yeah, I'm the biggest Jason Light fan, I guess. I mean, dude, I think he's amazing, and obviously I'm biased, but I feel incredibly fortunate that he took a chance on me, and he's not afraid to take those chances and stand by what he believes in. And he's, I think, a terrific talent evaluator. Like, I just think that he is. And,
but again, no bias, right?
No bias. No, I mean, the truth that, I mean, for at least my situation, like I know, for instance, there were teams that had, 5th round grades, and the fact that you can have, it's not Madden. It's not like there's a rating. It's not like, 73, 65. Oh, okay, I got to take them. It's like, it's really a talent evaluation is a really complicated beast. The psychology behind it, the development of it. And I think that's something that Jason has done a terrific job, and the whole scouting department's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, kind of in that same vein, I'll never forget. I ran into you, I think at the cafe or something, and I had asked like who you had been working out with on Boswell, and you told me that the Bills had been working you out at tight end, like having you run routes and shit. And I was like, what the fuck?
That was wild.
Yeah. So I don't think Jason Light's having you run routes. Probably not, right?
So just really quick, that workout was like stands out to me. But it was at the time the OC, tight ends coach, and O-line coach all came out, and I did O-line stuff for, I don't know, 5 minutes, and then just ran routes for like 30 minutes. How'd you do? Well, I did, dude, honestly, like I caught everything.
There you go.
I think I was slow as heck, but I caught everything. In my head, I was like, this would be the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, you're probably sneaky, like rooting for it. You're like, let's
go to the Bills. Let's go Buffalo.
Yeah, hour up the road. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I can cut weight.
Yeah, exactly. So do you guys want to run through some of we only got a few more questions about the Super Bowl season, but you guys want to grab any of those?
Honestly, I say you guys can go. I've been holding the Pistons since the first question. I'm just waiting to get to my segment here for it. So you go ahead, B. Go through it.
All right. Yeah. So obviously that Super Bowl win that you guys had, that came on your guys' home field, which is something that's never been done before. So was that kind of something that there's kind of, echoes throughout the season? Like, it'd be really cool if we did. Obviously the Super Bowl is the main goal, but was there kind of like chatter, like, it'd be kind of historic if we pulled this off?
Yeah. Yeah. So undoubtedly, like that was a conversation. Be like, it was kind of just like wouldn't that be awesome? Or like, wouldn't that be wild? Like if that actually happened.
Yeah.
And then actually in our Super Bowl ring, like you can twist off and inside there's like a diamond that represents the first team. It's a picture. It's a carve out of Raymond James. Our stadium, and a small diamond in there that's and it says like the first team to win.
Wow,
stadium.
That's pretty badass.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Were you a little salty that it literally happened like the very next year, or
kind of made it way less special? But when you're the first to do it, nobody can take that away. So.
Exactly. No, of course. Yeah, that's incredible. Accomplishment. And then we got to ask you about the boat party, right? Got to ask you about it. Everybody saw that video of Brady kind of stumbling off the dock, and people. I don't think people realize he got down like that. So you guys got pretty lit that day. How was that? You even remember it? Or
there's a picture that comes to mind of our one of our quarterbacks with his arms around Tom. That like looks like he's like carrying him. Like it looks like Tom stumbling.
Yeah.
And the truth is, like, Tom wasn't stumbling. We had like there was no security. So like Griff, our backup quarterback, was acting as like a security guard, like grabbing him like back up, like joking, obviously. And so it wasn't like he's actually holding Tom up. So I don't think Tom was that far gone. But yes, I think the Super Bowl, the boat parade was like
I actually just remembered you went live on it too. I remember joining it, and you guys were like on the boat, like fucking.
Dude, I was trying to commandeer a jet ski at that point. I was on the boat. I was like, dude, if anyone's got a jet ski, roll up.
And I remember, I think because it shows you like who's in it, and like Curry's name popped up, and you're like Curry, like Jake Curry. Like,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
it's a good time.
Hilarious. All right, Buzz. Well, got your little awards, right? We gotta hand out some awards now.
Yes. Now that I know you're familiar with The Office, this is probably definitely some sort of copyright issue, but the Tampa Dundees is where we're going with this one. All right. So we're going to start. I'm going to ask you these awards. You're going to tell me who, and this could be in your entire time at Tampa. So it doesn't have to be specific to 1 year, but just like your memory of your whole time playing at Tampa, who you would give these awards to. All right. The first one, busiest Beaver, as in your hard worker for the team. Who's the person you're always seeing put in that work?
Busiest Beaver has to go to Levante David. Easy. All right, dude. Yeah, consistent grind. The fact that he's done it for that long, just consistently. Busiest Beaver. I feel like Levante's going to get a bunch of these. I'm the biggest Levante David fan.
So I'm happy you watch The Office, because this next one would be a lot more awkward if you didn't. But I had to put all the official ones they asked for it. So hottest in the locker room award. I have no way to tune that towards football, so you're going to have to interpret that the way you want. Maybe that's the best dress. I don't know what you want to do here, but I got to go through the actual awards.
Dude, hottest in the locker room is easy. That's Tom 10 times out of 10, right? Like that's
I assume.
Has to
be. Easy. Next.
All right. So the tight ass award, the way I put it is, maybe the fun sucker where, as far as football goes, like, this is all work, no play here. We don't joke around at all right now.
Well, I'm going to reframe it a little bit. I think that just because I think that I'm going to give it to myself, which I don't like to do. It's not a zero fun thing. It was because I was our PA rep. And so if there was something that was like kind of like we shouldn't be doing that, Jameis. Like,
I got you.
I shouldn't be throwing it right now.
Right.
Yeah.
That would be me.
Remember, these are Michael Scott's words, not mine. So I'm just going through
you couldn't have tweaked them.
Yeah. So this is the "Don't Go In There After Me" award. Mm-hmm.
So many comments. You would have thought they would have had more space. Actually, I'm going to give a shout out to Nate. We had a janitor, custodial staff who blow up our crappers. So
that's awesome.
shout out to him.
That must have been a thrill for him. He was taking his shit right where someone else.
Yeah, shocking to me. But
got to get these
Nate
awards.
didn't know
made
he was
and
going to get
ship 'em.
shots on this.
Yeah. Next one. Actually, I'm skipping that one. 'Cause I don't really care for that one. So this one was technically the whitest sneakers award, but we could kind of tweak that to the who's your sneakerhead? The guys like always got to get the like the new Jordans, the new this and that.
The amount of sneaker conversations blows my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just going to give it to the guy, my buddy who I played next to, Donnie, like Donovan Smith, our left tackle. Dude, like it's a legit shoe closet, and to the point where half of my shoes were his shoes that he was like, yeah, I wore these once. Like, say less.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Gotta love
Take 'em.
that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got some shoes from him now.
Right on.
The next one is the Grace Under Fire Award. So who's just always composed, like no matter the situation, just locked in, laser focused, that type of deal.
It's a good question. I think it'd be actually no. I'm thinking about it now. It would probably be Sue. It was just like actually, you know what? Yeah, I think so. But actually, low key, he had a fire and like an asshole about him. But I think that was always consistent. He had a consistent asshole about him.
Right. I got you.
Well, he did like stomp someone's like ankle or something, right? So,
I was gonna say
allegedly,
that was
allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
Yeah. Yes.
So maybe Sue's
consistent.
not the best answer.
It's consistent. We'll take
consistent. It's always there.
Yeah.
And this last one can probably be like
this could be a pass.
Well, yeah, it could be a pass, but we'll see.
Yeah, I said
We're gonna ask.
I got to go with all of them. Like I said, I can't cop out now. I'm just taking all the ones they asked on the show, so we're going from that. This is the Doobie Pothead Stoner Award. Who does that go? And there's no way to rephrase that one too. And again, this could be a pass. We assume to be a pass for whatever.
But this one
potential
legal
reasons.
One pass. I will
Perfect.
say, I will say the NFL my last year changed their drug testing policy. So at this point, it's set up so that players should and can. Smoke as long as there's a small window that you can't smoke, but outside that, you got to. I mean, you're not going to test positive. So, green light. If you want to smoke, go for it.
Green. Yeah.
No pun intended.
Green light. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I was 100% sure that was a pass, but I still had to ask it. So,
good question.
And then we'll do the speed round. Then we'll get you out of here. So it's 10 questions. It's how to lose a guest in 10 questions. Speed round. You can do true, false, yes, no. You can answer it, or you can just pass. So,
okay.
Buzz, if you want to just speed through these, we'll get them out of here. What do you got? First one.
So you tell them true, false. Could be short answer, pass. And just a quick spoiler, I will say it though. There's definitely more than 10, but we're gonna continue to go from here. So it's and we're gonna start out hot. How much did you pay in taxes last year?
Too much.
Good answer. It's a short answer.
All right, next.
Can we FaceTime Tom Brady?
No.
Would have done fine with a pass, but I've heard. All right, yes. Wow, we're really going into it. So I've heard you're a nice guy. This is what Ben always talks about. You want to prove that by paying off all of our college debt right now, live on this podcast.
That's not a pass. That's a no.
Oh, okay. So we won't consider it later. Oof. You've heard the story about Stephon Diggs in the hotel on Valentine's Day.
Nope. Next one.
All right. Okay. What's the most uncomfortable thing that Tom Brady has done in front of you?
Neck massage.
Interesting.
He was trying to help. Right. To be fair, he's trying to help. My neck was messed up, but
all right. Noted. So, true or false? You and Tom Brady both voted.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. True or false? You and Tom Brady both voted for the same person last election.
Unknown.
Okay. All right. Like I said, there's a lot of passes here. Don't worry
probably,
about it.
But probably not.
Okay.
That's what we expected.
Hey, remember, Ben's the one that wrote these. So, next question. Do you agree with Kyrie that the earth is flat?
No.
No.
Idiotic statement. Next.
All right. Kanye West.
Out.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah. No interest in giving him the time of day.
Nope.
Perfect.
Man.
Kind of the assumption there. Next one. Do rich people receive phone calls about your vehicle's extended warranty?
I haven't gotten one yet. So
Oh,
I'll let you know
unbelievable.
Although
that's an answer.
I have to imagine the equivalent of that is when I text you during Tampa Bay games. That's like basically the same thing.
My equivalent is not that, but you get unknown, not from Capaldo, but you do get some unknown, a lot of unknown numbers.
Yeah, for sure. So after all your success in the NFL, do you find yourself saying, "Do you know who I am?" more often?
Not even a little bit. I will say it happened on a flight. Was it 2 days ago? Are you related to Ali Marpet?
No, I'm not. Got the wrong guy.
That's the wrong
Never
guy.
even heard of him.
Oh, I thought I could keep a straight face, but some of these I don't even want to ask anymore.
Yeah, just do a couple more and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, we'll go past that one for sure.
Now I just want to know.
Yeah, maybe we'll talk about these ones after. Just because, yeah. So true or false, though, your skills on the ukulele have landed you a role in an upcoming biopic on Dwayne Johnson.
False, but that would be freaking dope.
So the answer would be yes if you were yes. So it was brought to you and say yes. I'm just gonna skip that one.
Yeah, let's do that last one then.
I'll do the last two here. I'm gonna do the last two.
Okay.
So while I was researching for this interview, I noticed you have a thumbs up and a lot of pictures. Does this have anything to do with your affiliation with the Illuminati?
No affiliation. Pass. Oh, let's go pass.
Pass.
Okay.
Yes. You can blink twice if they're listening, just in case. But yeah. All right. Last question. Out of all your Tampa Bay teammates, which one got paid the most in college?
Phenomenal question. I'm just glad that it's legal now.
Yeah.
That's all.
For sure.
I mean, just an absurd underworld of an economy, and now at least, and I don't know if it's for the best, but at least it's out there. So.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, we appreciate all the time you gave us, and like you said, you just got engaged. So congratulations on your upcoming, nuptials.
Absolutely.
Best of luck with everything, and stay in touch. And hopefully you had a good time tonight, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
For sure. Appreciate you guys.
All right, buddy.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for joining.
See you, Allie. Appreciate it.